Hey guys, Ruby the Rager. Hope you're having a fantastic day, and welcome back to another installment of Treadmill Thoughts. This one's not on the treadmill though, I'm in my room, just because it was bright as hell today. I mean, we're in the middle of summer, so it's like bright as shit. And I mean, I could have lowered the blinds in the gym, you know, like I've done before, but it's whatever. I didn't feel like it. I was like, it's a little, the lighting was fucked, so I decided not to, because I was coming home anyway. So I'm here. So I got to thinking lately about the economy, right? So this would probably be labeled something like the fucking live upward mobility, something like that. And full disclosure, where I live is income driven, right? So the way that works is they look at how much money is being made in the household, right? It's not exactly a per person thing. It's just how much combined income everybody in the house has. So it's like two different brackets. There's like a lower bracket and upper bracket. So if you make a certain amount, you pay a certain amount. But then if you make a little over that, then you get pushed into the next bracket where you pay a little more with the rent because you're making more, which is fair, makes sense. But if you make way more than that, like you're getting close to pulling like six figures or whatever, you're required to leave, right? Like you're not allowed because the place is income driven. The whole point is to let poor people live in a decent place, right? Okay, so the problem with this is that when you put restrictions like that on something, people can't afford to advance, right? Which is the point, right? That's what capitalists want. They want people to not have mobility, right? They want you to be stuck, right? That's why they don't like the idea of a car being repairable. They want you to have to go back to the dealer every time it breaks and turn in your car every year even. They want you constantly connected to the new obsolescence, like the forced obsolescence, the garbage. They want you doing that so that you're always beholden to them in the system, right? So, so if I made more money, right? So I have a novel that I've written. If I were to go get this novel copyrighted, published, whatever, right? If I make too much money, right? If I make less than a certain amount, it's fine, right? Then I'm just like kind of an amateur publisher, an amateur author, let's say, and then I can still stay here and make up to a certain amount, right? But if I make a whole shit ton of money, then I could leave. Oh, great, cool. I'll sell the book, and maybe the book will get me $1 million, and then I'll go buy a house somewhere. Decent idea, you would think. But the reality is that it's going to be somewhere in the middle. It's going to be too much to live here, and it's going to be not enough to live somewhere else. Because everywhere around here is, the whole economy's fucked. Like, rent's insane, right? Mortgages are completely out of the question for anyone under 40 at this point. Like you're fucked. You're just fucked, right? And then even if you can find a house that it's like, oh, this is decent. Okay, cool. Then it's in like communities that are made for old people. So only people of a certain age are allowed to live there. Again, restrictions that are limiting people's mobility. And it's this NIMBY bullshit, right? So that's another thing that annoys me is the place I live. The place I used to live had multiple rooms, right? So the place I used to live when I was in college, that was 4 rooms to every unit. And there were, 5 stories on this place? And then each thing. So there were tons of possibility for people living there, right? Like a ton of things. It was like a proper apartment building, basically. And here, there's like way less. So it's kind of nice, because, but the square footage doesn't really change. That's the weird part, is that the amount of space in my apartment now is about the same as it was at the other place. So it's like, what are you doing with this square footage? You're telling me this, but the other place now costs like a ton, right? Compared to what's here. Because again, income driven, right? So you can't make more money because we make too much money, then it's a problem. So this goes also to other, government programs. So like food stamps and all that, right? If you make too much money, they won't give you assistance. But if you don't make enough money, you won't be able to buy the shit they think you should be able to buy with the money you did make, right? Because of taxes, low wages, etc., whatever the fuck you want to blame it on. It's just the point, right? The point of capitalism is to keep you poor, right? This is why UBI is so hated by the rich, because they don't want people being able to say no to bad employers, right? They want people desperate. It's the same reason they bring in immigrants to do farm work, right? So you have like the illegal immigrants to come in and do the farm work. The reason for that, right? And mind you, this is like not even bashing those guys. Those guys work hard, right? Like, now I'm not like, I think there should be a better path to citizenship, obviously, right? There should just be an easy way for them to come over here, do some work, there you go, problem solved, right? And the problem is that the guys that get in trouble for it are always the workers and not the capitalists that are exploiting their labor. When was the last time you ever read a headline about these guys getting busted and their employer going to jail for the rest of his life for violating labor laws? Never. You've never heard of it because it doesn't happen. They get some kind of fine and that's it. It just never happens. But no, that's why they do that, is they bring in people who work shit jobs, right, for lower pay. So it devalues everybody's labor, first off. It makes you more desperate because if you won't put up with it, then somebody else will put up with it, right? And they don't have to be an illegal person. It just needs to be anybody in general who is more desperate in their situation than you are, right? If they have more need than you do, they will put up with more, right? They will tolerate lower wages. They will tolerate bad working conditions, right? This is what happens when you have a country with no strong unions and no strong labor movement, right? This is exactly what happens. So this is how the system works, by the way. Like, this is, you can't beat this. You can't fix this. I said in a previous video, you can't win capitalism. You can't fix it. You can't do anything. All you can do is wait for it to be destroyed, right? Because you can destroy it eventually. That's what I said in the other one. Go watch that one if you want. But the point I'm getting at is that there is no incentive for upward mobility because there's a cost to everything, right? So, for example, I could go to get a better job if I want to make more money. Okay, cool. But I can only look at jobs in this area that pay a certain amount, right? So I can't make a ton of money. And then if I make a ton of money, here's the kicker. Oh, hey, cool. I'll go pull 6 figures. But to do that, I would need to live in a place where 6 figures is closer to 5 figures. And specifically the lower end of 5 figures. So if I'm making $100,000, but it's all going to expenses to where it equals out to almost about $50,000 a year, then what was the point of moving past my economic bracket, right? So if I live in a place like this, right? If I was living here alone, it would cost like $2,000, right? Now if I'm living with my buddy, right? We both put in like $1,000. Okay, cool. But then you've got the rent and the groceries, the electricity, all that on top of it. Right. So basically, let's just say a place like this, assuming you get a place like this, like utilities included and all that, $1,500. Cool. That's like what? 12,000 plus 6,000. That's $18,000 a year you have to make just for living expenses, right? So that's like line with minimum wage, kind of. If you were a full-time minimum wage worker, kind of. That would maybe make sense, right? But you would make just enough money to exist to make the money. You would never make more money to invest in yourself, right? You'd never have the time to invest in yourself either. That's the other thing, is people need time to do this shit. If I did not have to work, right? If there was not this, because nobody has to really work. We have so many people in this society that are just redundant. We have 8 billion people on this planet. Do we really need everybody to be working all the time for society to be maintained? No. There's only a fraction of the people on this planet that actually do jobs that are necessary to continue the food, water, and shelter, the basics, right? The point I'm getting at is that you can't outrun capitalism. You can't even do that. Like, you can't even work to become something because it's designed for you not to do that. Right? They don't want you doing that. Because how many people, like, again, if I was not required to work to pay my bills and shit, right? If it was just like, here's 3 hots and a cot, here's the basics, you can exist. All right, cool. You know what I would do in a day? I wouldn't sit around. Like, maybe I would, but I wouldn't sit around all the time. I would, like, go out with all that free time. I would have time to go and dedicate to, like, I don't know, charitable shit, right? So I'd go clean up trash on the highway, which people shouldn't be doing anyway. Don't litter. You're a fucking piece of shit if you do shit like that. You're a fucking awful human being because your mentality just sucks. Fuck you. But no, I would do that. I would go out, like, I'd just go to my local neighborhood and be like, hey, does anybody need help, like, fixing shit, Like, not that I know shit, but it's like, I got Google. I can figure out how to, fix a problem on a damn dishwasher in 3 seconds, Like, if that's... I would just chill and, like, just run around doing handyman shit if people wanted that. Like, I was watching Gran Torino last night and seeing Tao just wander around. And he also had a job. He, like, in the movie, the character Tao has a job, right? He has a job in construction, right? So he's kind of starting off in mobility. But this movie was years and years ago, right? So it's a great movie. It's a very good story. but at the same time, it only works because of the systems. I'm gonna have to do a video on Gran Torino at some point in maybe my cinema analysis series, because it's a perfect storm of the American dream, but it's still like Clint Eastwood's fantastic with it because he wrote it, produced it, all that shit, and he is not afraid to show the downfall of the American experiment, right? And show the problems are not getting fixed because people don't want to fix problems, and there's just dichotomy of, you know, whatever. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. It's a great movie. If you've never seen Gran Torino, it's a fantastic movie. But yeah, I just look at that. I'm like, damn, I would, like, yeah, it would suck having to go clean gutters and shit. Like, that's the act itself would be awful, but at least you're doing something, and you're doing something that matters, that is important. I'm about to go to work this afternoon. I do shit that does not matter at all in the slight. Like, the only, I think I've said this before, I work at a gas station. There is literally nothing at all in my gas station that you need other than the fuel, which we shouldn't even be on right now. We should be on to, like, electricity. Like, we should have electric cars that are actually designed well and are fueled by near limitless nuclear reactor energy, right? That should have been our power grid decades ago. But again, the capitalists don't want that. They don't want people to advance. They don't want people to be more comfortable, right? All this comfort, all the internet and the air conditioning, all this. Do you know why air conditioning was even invented, by the way? It's not a fucking luxury. It's required. Air conditioning was invented, refrigerants were invented, so that you could keep patients in hospitals at a standard temperature, right? Because, gee, I don't know, excessive heat is usually bad for somebody who's trying to recover from an illness, you know, tends to. Now, certain illnesses where heat is good, but point being is you needed to be able to do that. I mean, and the knock-on effect is that now later we can have popsicles in the freezer, right? That's like the side effect of solving the actual problem, right? The side effect of solving the problem is we get something that appears to be a luxury, that appears to be, you know, some sort of unnecessary thing, that the fat of life that you could cut out. Which is just bullshit. Anyway, the point being is you have no upward mobility. It's a lie. All you can do is work on yourself, gather your own skills, do your own work, and hopefully you will survive. And here's the important thing. I'll make a video on this to go more into this, but the important thing is not to have kids, right? To not have a family, to not get roped into that, because then you're just going to get more tied to the system, right? But that's a topic for another day. That's the whole antinatalism thing. We can really talk about that at some point. But anyway, I gotta hop in the shower, get ready, all that bullshit. You know, back to the wage slavery as it is. You know, and I'm gonna keep calling that for the rest of my life, because it's just straight up slavery, like, is what it is, right? Being compelled to work is slavery. Like, work or die. That's literally our society. You're not allowed to exist unless you work. And then there's some people that exist without working that claim benefits from the government, and you know, those benefits are only supposed to exist to help you in between the working. Like, you're expected to go back to work. Like, you're never allowed to just chill, you know? It's wild. Again, that could be a whole video in and of itself. But yeah, that's it. So yeah, wake up from the American dream. You've been asleep. It's time to wake the fuck up and get to work. Go to the gym. Do something in your own time that has no financial incentive in any way, shape, or form. Just do what you want to do. Simple as.